so that you can go and eat faster. Today I'm going to present you the information about the global and the Ukrainian market. This is my third time that I do a research into Ukrainian market, and this time it's my team doing it. The first time we did it in 2013, it was like a first date. Then there was an update in 2016, and finally we do a COVID update in 2020. I'd like to thank UTIC for supporting this project and promoting the Ukrainian audiences. It's still in full blast. Those of you who haven't taken part in the survey, they can do so to make the research more granular and represent your market better in the global arena. Those who have taken part, thank you very much. So let's see what we have for you today, how the things are in Ukraine and how things compare to the global market. First of all, I present you the market landscape of the Ukrainian language industry. Those of you who have been in the market for 7 years, 10 years, definitely it's been some time with the Ukrainian Translation Industry Conference. Thank you for your patience. All right, so those of you who are new to the Ukrainian market, let me give you a quick picture. In the center, you have the multitude of translation companies, about 200 of them, that have existed in this market for many years. The ones at the top are the most important, Prof. Pereklat, Tris, Stomov, Kiev Text, Vedi, Yurkli, and so on. These are the companies that work with the Ukrainian clients, that work with the local enterprises, that take part in tenders, that provide translations for the populace when they need to translate a passport to fly away to the United States and try to apply for a visa. On the right, you have the translation companies that work with other translation companies, the subcontractors. These circumvent the local market with its low rates, and they focus on European, American, and sometimes even Asian clients. The most important is, of course, the organizer of UTIC, InText. We have Alexander here representing Translatel, and I hope there are people from Aspect and Technolex. So these are the companies that provide Ukrainian and Russian as a part of the globalization programs, as a part of that mix. Now, Ukraine has always been a place where a lot of language technology is made, and over the last few years, a few of these technologies have become really mainstream. I would like to applaud to Crowdin. This company, which started about 10 years ago, we've seen the beginnings of it at the first Ukrainian Translation Industry Conference, is now one of the top TMS tools in the world with a revenue more than $2.5 million a year. All the other tools are smaller, even combined are smaller than Crowdin. So Crowdin really made the break, and the papers want to know which shirts Sergey wears. To the bottom left corner, you have dubbing at subtitling studios. This space has not been yet really well researched. The biggest ones are Ledoyen and Tak Treba Production, which localize for theatrical releases, for movies, for Hollywood. And now it's becoming a more important industry because of Netflix. I don't know, has Netflix been launched in Ukraine already? Irina, tell me. Do you have Netflix in Ukrainian?
Do we have Yes, we have Netflix in Ukrainian.
Voila, so someone is localizing Netflix into Ukrainian, and this type of work is only going to increase with the launch on Disney Plus platforms, NBC, you now have probably HBO as well. All of them localize at scale, they do dubbing, subtitling. This is going to become a bigger business, if it hasn't become already. So this is the Ukrainian market, it's pretty small. So the local players, they make about $35 million a year altogether. The subcontractors, about $10 million altogether. The technology is $4 million. It's a little bit bigger than the Baltic countries. It's bigger maybe than Latvia, Lithuania, or Estonia by itself. But together, the Baltic countries would be bigger than Ukraine. And it's maybe 5 times smaller than the Russian market. So what's the main conclusion here is that the companies that did not focus on the market in Ukraine, which have become global, which have focused on the companies all around the world, got the better end of the deal. Let me move on. In addition to these local players, Ukraine is an ideal location for many services and technology companies to have a back office here. Because of the human talent that you have in Ukraine and the very advantageous salaries, which used to be the case for many years. I know that the IT people in Ukraine now earn as much as in Warsaw, for example, Sabina, or anywhere else. But for many years, this has been a talent hub. So most of the Russian LSPs and even some LSPs from other countries like Translation Back Office, they've opened production departments in Ukraine to benefit from this disparity. Now these companies are opening up in Bulgaria, which is a part of the European Union, and you know that in Varna and in Sofia there are big offices of translation companies from the UK growing up, and people go there because they can go to the sea and also visit their office, to the Black Sea. In Ukraine, you can probably visit Dnipro and Meteorit and enjoy the hospitality offered by Intex and Stanislav. In addition to the services companies, you have a big hub for technology, and the technology sector is really skyrocketing. It is exploding in Ukraine. SmartLink is one big company which has a very important technology hub in Ukraine, and maybe some of you know that SmartLink even had its humble beginnings from Ukraine. You now have Lilt having some production functions in Ukraine, WordBee, Zilio, and I think this list can be supplemented. If you know more, reach out to me and let me know. So many of the world's language technology products are made in Ukraine. One more niche which I found out scanning some of the very arcane documentation from the United States State Department is that there are quite a few companies and even individual persons who work with the State Department in the United States, and they work with the Department of Defense. A similar list exists for the European institutions and the Geneva-based international organizations from the United Nations family. I think you might have Vladimir from Kiev Language Services there at the conference. I think he has a presentation scheduled today, so he's one of the suppliers of the State Department. So this is another niche where you can potentially reach out very interesting buyers. Being in Ukraine, you can work directly with an American client, which has a guaranteed volume, which has a guaranteed need and very advantageous pricing. So this is a niche in the market that few people know about, but it's pretty interesting. Now I'm spreading out the information to help you all compete with Vladimir a little bit. Let's look at the macroeconomic trends. Since I last surveyed and researched the Ukrainian market, not many things have changed. Ukraine has been on the path to recovery somewhat, and now COVID, as you can see in 2020, have put us back almost on the level of 2016. Not the middle of 2016, but somewhere here. So the market is not going to grow internally. And again, the currency exchange levels are at its highest, which says, as usual, that those who get paid in euros or United States dollars that have international clients have a very advantageous market position. So again, work with clients from Europe, from the United States, maybe even from China. This is a very good opportunity. Do not focus on the local market. It's too competitive and it's too small to create a good job and business opportunities. What has changed over this 7 years is the price per page. Of course, in Ukraine, the internal market still counts the prices per page. But those of you who are familiar, they can probably divide $9 by 250 and get a little bit less than 4 cents per word. which is the current going rate. During the 2016 crisis with the military operations going on the ground, there's been a chaotic pricing. Now it's stabilized a little bit higher than in 2013. I don't know if this accounts for inflation. The one in the red is the United States dollar, so $8.50 against $7 in the internal market. At the same time, because of the currency exchange rates, the price per page in the domestic market in hryvnia, in the Ukrainian currency, has really skyrocketed. We went from 55 per page at an agency to 240 per page at the agency which works in the domestic market. I think that there are very few companies that work in the national domestic market there at the conference, so maybe it's not so relevant for the audience, because most of you probably serve international clients in sense per word. Let's just say that the pricing in the domestic market, the top pricing is probably the bottom pricing that you sell internationally. Very interesting disparity. Here is the financial performance of the leading companies that has been self-reported and provided by companies themselves. So you have to either trust them or trust and check. As you can see, despite COVID, some of the companies that responded to the question expect growth in volume and expect growth in sales. Translatel mentioned that they're going to see a little bit of growth. Technolex, subcontractors, are going to see some growth. And only KLS by Vladimir reported that they're going to see a decline. I think those who are not reporting 2020 performance are also in a little bit of decline, because everywhere around the world the situation has been that more than a half of companies have experienced a decline, and only a select few, like 10%, have seen growth in sales. So this could be maybe bravado. It could be some particular factor in the Ukrainian market. One of the factors could be that because of the new sanctions against Russia, some of the new volumes flow to the Ukrainian subcontractors to translate not into Ukrainian but into Russian. Maybe it's a great sales effort. Maybe it's because the Ukrainian providers are cost optimized. But I'm sure some of them will see difficulties this year, especially because the conferences are not there. And some of the subcontractors have gotten used to selling and winning new clients at a conference. So without conferences, more people have to switch to digital marketing. Therefore, the presentation by Sabina is just coming up at the right time, at the right place. Sabina, I think you're going to be remembered, rewatched, reused many times. So congratulations. In the trends tab on the right, things that I've noticed are pretty much the same that you notice everywhere around the world. There's growth in translations for regulated industries, primarily for life sciences. I see life sciences appearing as a big chunk of portfolios on many companies in my list. Also, international organizations and translations for them are going to be a big volume because they need to integrate more into the European community. Legal falls in the same category. And finally, there's a little bit of growth in localization, but localization is more severely disrupted than other sectors by machine translation, automation. So it's not always that they need huge volumes of high-quality documentation. So regulated industries win. COVID brought in remote work, and many companies in Russia and in Ukraine are starting to reduce office space because their employees and project managers have gotten used to working from home. This is becoming a new paradigm, and why not pay them a little bit more to allow them to have comfortable conditions at home, good laptops, microphones, whatever it's needed, and then you can save on office space. So if your company is not using this trend, probably you will in the future, because it's going to be the norm. The offices will become a meeting place, a planning place, a team building place, a training place, whereas your home, your extra room will become your workplace. The companies that work with professional buyers, mostly I mean subcontractors here, they see more post-editing work, and they need to switch to post-editing in these years, maybe to adapt their own custom engines or to train their linguists in light post-editing or heavy post-editing. This is the task for the production departments, and the companies that will realize this exercise earlier and with better quality, better optimization, of course, will have an advantage. Finally, digital marketing, as I already mentioned, this is time of the year, time in industry development when it's really important to understand how you can win clients online, how you can segment your audience, what you say to the audience, how you personalize the messages. It doesn't mean that you personalize for each person. It could mean that you personalize for a group. It could mean that you really study what they do and how you can help them. Not just saying, we are a translation company from Ukraine offering translations for 4 cents a word, but asking them if they're a vendor manager, do they have a problem with these languages? Do they have problems with or challenges with DTP, chatbots, dialogue scripting, whatever is the new service with the new flavor of the month? Really trying to investigate what's next for the vendor manager. Now, this was Ukraine. To kind of recap this, the market hasn't really changed in 3 years, and 4 years, and even in 7 years. So if I opened here the presentation from the previous years and used half of it of this content, it would still be true. It would still be what's going on the market today. It's a little bit stagnant, this space. The situation and the positions of the companies haven't changed. No one has acquired anyone. The companies have grown a little bit, but didn't really change the mutual rankings. The segments have shifted a little bit, but the topics are still the same. So this industry is probably in the stage when it's getting into old age, and this is not a very good sign for those who stay in this industry. Maybe it's time to think how you can transition to the next stage, and I'll speak about it in a minute. But first, please allow me to give you a little bit of a global perspective, what's going on. I'm going to use the data I collected with EUATC and the data collected by other analysts. As you can see, COVID has been really well researched, and people have been surveying companies all around the world non-stop. GAO Association in particular has been launching 2 or 3 polls to see month by month how the conditions are evolving, because they are evolving pretty fast. In general, have a look. More than half of the companies have experienced a decline in the business. And the decline is stronger with small providers, especially those that just had clients from small business. The small businesses, they switched off the translation process much faster than the big enterprise. The big enterprise, they took their time. They decided, okay, maybe we don't stop the process. Maybe it goes on. So they were not as flexible in adjusting their plans. But translators who worked with small companies, they were impacted more, because the small companies, when they heard this is a crisis, this is coming, the small businesses, they quickly cut all of their expenses, everything non-essential, and translation was in many cases cut. So what is going to mean for us? For many years, our industry has been perceived as impervious and completely resilient to any crisis. As you can see, the CSA research always puts the next year above the other. There has never been a decline in revenues, despite crisis in 2009 with the mortgage, the financial crisis, and so on. If you look at the hard data coming from the fiscal registers, like Eurostat, you can see that there's been slight decline. There's been a few years of stagnation, but more or less the trend is upwards. So it's going to continue, but maybe not this year. This year, the analysts expect a decline. How deep the decline is going to be? What should we prepare for? Should we prepare for a really bad situation and maybe store some kartoshka in our backyard and stock some porridge so that we have something to go on, or should we just cut up the luxury expenses? The estimates are as follows. Slater put a -6% estimate for 2020, and of course, depending on the sector, some sectors are up, some sectors are down, and you probably want to focus on the sectors that are up to maintain your volume. If you are very diversified, if you're generalist, you're probably going to go with the main index trend. For the Russian market, I conducted the research, I estimated the impact, and we ended up with my team at the pessimistic scenario of -10.5%, but maybe it's going to be even deeper with the recent statistics and recent reports by companies coming in. So the LSP revenue is going to go maybe even -15%, which might mean that some of the jobs will be drying up, and maybe some of the LSPs will have to let go of the personnel. Typically, the companies hold on to the team to the last moment. So they eat up into the profits, they cut other expenses, they would hold on to the internal in-house people to the last. They'll probably optimize against freelancers working with them because these are not internal people, and they'll protect their project managers to the last person, to the last hryvnia. So the ones impacted, again, will be translators working with the agencies, especially with the small ones, where the volumes have been more impacted. And maybe 10% decrease in jobs, or maybe 1 in 10 will lose their source of income. So what can you do in this situation? The industry is not changing. In 2 or 3 years, it's going to rebound, and we're going to see growth again, but growth is not going to be fantastic. It's going to be a few percentage points every year. And in Ukraine, in particular, some companies are winning despite the crisis, but the conditions for translators, I wouldn't say that the conditions are superb. What people like me and my mentors used to say is specialize, train yourself in some subject matter area like medical, life sciences, legal, practice in the new capital so that you are a very valuable resource and you'll get more. And also learn to sell. Become a subject matter expert who can sell to the clients, especially to direct clients. This is still valuable today, but I think we can see the end of the road for this kind of profession. The translator in their traditional form is not going to disappear, but the prestige of this profession is a little bit lower than it used to be. It's not this highly skilled, highly knowledgeable expert that we saw 10 years ago. Translator is now well managed in some kind of translation management system. They are offered post-editing jobs. They're treated as a linguist. So this job is probably not the most fantastic job in the world anymore. Maybe transcreator is better. Digital marketing specialist is much more attractive and sexy. What I think is the next step for those who work in our industry and work in this profession and build a business is to capitalize on the technology wave, which is just coming all over us. What many companies lack and they want to hire every day is a product owner. So a little bit of an entrepreneur, a little bit of a technical specialist, a little bit of a salesperson, a little bit of a project manager, someone who combines all this expertise to launch technology products that disrupt this industry. Maybe the technology is quite small compared to services. Maybe it's only 3, 4, 5% of the services volume, but the purchasing power, the business model, the attractiveness, the amount of money that you can gain as an employee and funding that you can gain as a company and valuation that you can get as an owner when you sell your company, it's much higher in a product in SaaS. So my new advice is diversify what you do a little bit, specialize in digital and become a product owner. Learn to productize a service, turn it into a technology which you can show to the customer. New technology innovation is always interesting to people. So when you come to someone and you say, we offer Ukrainian translation for 4 cents a word, that's probably not going to get you more than one meeting out of 10 people you approach. But if you say we have a new technology which allows you to enter this Ukrainian market, and then you have something to show, like a customer portal, this is much more attractive, and people will meet to see what is the interesting innovation that you have behind your belt. Now, this is the main thing. I'm going to go into a few interesting innovations that I've seen this year to give you ideas for product development products that you can launch from Ukraine. And Irina, please let me know if people are sleeping or if people are very engaged, and how much time do I still have to go on with this? Irina?
So, I'm here. People are not sleeping, they are engaged. We have questions,
okay,
both from, I believe, from here and from online too. So please go on. You have about, you have about 25 minutes.
Okay, so I can go slowly, and you can really build up your hunger for food, or food for thought. So one of the big discoveries of this year is, of course, remote simultaneous interpreting. Suddenly, there's no on-site meetings, and the meetings are moving on to Zoom, Teams, WebEx, GoToWebinar, and some of these meetings are multilingual, so they have to be interpreted. This produced an enormous, humongous demand for remote simultaneous platforms. Only Zoom has the built-in capability for interpreting. WebEx doesn't, Teams don't. And Zoom, because of their fast growth and because of the maybe a little bit of insufficient security, has become prohibited by many big organizations and by big corporations. So this created an enormous opportunity for these platforms that provide remote simultaneous interpreting, and for people who work as interpreters on these platforms. So if you know the platform, if you can offer it to the conference manager, then you're in luck. For instance, in Ukraine, an interpreter probably gains about $200 a day for simultaneous interpreting. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 250. A New York interpreter gains 1,500. And nothing prevents you from selling or offering your services to someone in New York who runs those online meetings. So many companies started to do that, and clients started asking about this. So this transformed a much bigger industry. We've seen yesterday that the news that Kudo got 6 million in funding, and the Swiss platform Interprify, they're probably going to go from 3 or 4 million in revenue to maybe $10 million in revenue. The platform is a small part of what they do. You can use any technology. The important part is, of course, supporting your client. They don't know how to run those meetings. They don't know how to be the master of ceremonies or the moderator for those webinars that they run. They don't know how to mute people. So if you can do that, the contracts can be really, really lucrative. For me, I happen to work with a very interesting organization in the United Nations family this year to help them transition to online meetings. And your online meetings can look like, right now, my head appearing against the white ceiling, or it can look like this. On the bottom right, you can see a special room called Glass Room, constructed in Skolkovo in Russia, to run those online meetings. in a really cool way. Isn't it awesome? So what you can propose is, of course, interpreting, but you can also propose online event management, helping your client transition to online events, helping them run even monolingual events. How do they run all these conferences? How do they organize them? Who has the word? That kind of thing. How do they set up Zoom or WebEx? Some clients don't do that. They want you to be responsible. Second thing that I've noticed is a big rise in machine translation. And the new take on machine translation is to provide, well, it's not really new, but there's a new attempt to make it new, is to provide it through a portal. So if you've followed SDL, one of the biggest companies in the industry, they recently launched a customer portal called Slate, specifically designed for those investigators and paralegals that Sabina has been talking about. It's a project which is spearheaded by her ex-boss, Christoph. And what happens in this portal? You subscribe to the portal and you pay as a client every month a certain amount, maybe 300, 400 euros per user. The user comes in and they have a limit of credits which they can spend on machine translating their documents and getting an instant machine translation with terminology, custom machine translation engine built for them maybe, or they can ask this document to be machine translated and then post-edited. So this is the way you take a service, translation, and make it into a digital product with a subscription instead of a rate per word. So people here, they pay you a guaranteed amount every month, despite the using or not. So if you can sell this, and when you sell, you have something to show, you gain a guaranteed customer base. You gain clients that support your COVID or not. So this is a very lucrative business strategy. And there's quite a few of these tools coming up. On the right, you have a Turkish, French, American, mostly Turkish platform, MotoWord, also completely automated, something new. They're in a few $1 million range per year. They even sell this completely automated translations to hospitals and life sciences, because people begin to like convenience more than they like communicating over email and having a human process in place. So this part of the market is still very small, but it shows you how you can take what you do and convert it into a completely different business model with a dash of technology. And this is much easier to sell because it's a product, because it's something flash and it has the innovative flair. And it's more interesting to do. Multilingual customer support or customer service. This is the company on the right, Unbabel, is now the most funded company in our industry. They got more than $90 million in funding, even more than SmartLink. What they do, they create this machine translation interface, a portal, where tickets for customer service can be translated. So, for example, if you sell a product which goes into many countries, into Norway, into France, into the United States, into Germany, then probably you have to build customer service in each of these countries. So you have to take people, you have to give them offices, you have to hire them in this expensive geographies. In Germany, a customer support person can be 40,000, 50,000 euros a year. It's expensive. Instead, translating customer support can allow you to have a monolingual team speaking English anywhere, maybe in Ukraine. They talk to the customers in English, but machine translation is in a loop, so the tickets and the chat get instantly translated. And after they get instantly translated, afterwards there is a crowd of linguists that correct machine translation output. So next time the customer uses this language and they speak maybe about the same things like sport equipment or cars or software, the system knows this terminology and translates it correctly. The competitor of Unbabel is to the left, Language.io. Another competitor, you probably heard about the deal that Keyword Studios bought Can10MT, a machine translation company in Ireland. So they're going to build multilingual customer support for video games. Video games are really, really complex, right? If you know something like World of Warcraft, to find a customer support person that can explain why this armor for Paladin level 80 in Mines of Moria, whatever, doesn't work, you need a person who has been trained for many years in this game and understands the technical details. So it's not really easy to find those guys. And suddenly, a translation company can provide this as a service. Multilingual customer support for your video game in any geography. This is pretty cool. And this is a kind of service that you can easily build in Ukraine, hiring local customer support people. Software. The software sector is exploding, and so the tools for software are exploding. And we're used to working in Trados, MemoQ, MemSource, SmartCat, whatever is your tool. But there's a new cohort of translation management systems that sell to the developers, to the product owners, localization management systems, like Crowdin or their closest competitor, Latvian Localize. So this sector has seen incredible growth. Localize went from 11 people to 60 in 2 years. And this is only the beginning. I'm sure they're going to get a round of funding, and they're going to go to 100 people before 2021 or maybe 2021 May. There's a lot you can do for localization. I know Alexander in your audience already has acquired a stake in the IT company, has been developing this business. So this is going really well. The only problem in Ukraine, everyone has been hired. Everyone who knows anything has been hired, and their salaries have really skyrocketed. A project manager in Ukraine who helps with software development can gain about $2,000 against an average salary of a project manager in a translation company, I don't know, maybe $500, $600. So it's a big difference. A company that works with software can provide many services, not just localization. Development, design, testing, support. So there's a lot that you can do. And if you look at game localization providers specifically, such as QLoc from 1C or Keyword Studios, they added all of the services. So they work with the same video game companies, but localization is just a part of what they do. They can come into the developer and tell them, guys, we can help you all through your journey. We can design the game for you. We can build the game based on your specifications. We can make art for you. We can support your players. We can test your game, linguistic testing and usual testing. So this kind of range of services really helps them. So if you are working with localization, why not diversify a little bit and add all of this and try to sell to your existing customers? Subtitling and dubbing. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the video on demand providers, SVOD, this is a big market. It has already exploded, and it's now going slowly up. But new platforms are coming onto the market. In 10 years, we're not going to watch broadcast television so much. We're mostly going to watch on demand. So I haven't had a TV for many years, and I know many people around me who haven't had a TV now. So my grandmother, she still watches TV series on a broadcast TV. I watch only Netflix or stuff like this. So the next generation, which comes after, they probably won't even know what a broadcast TV is. So every provider understands that, and they build this offering. They build online television. Once you build online television, you're not limited to one country. Anyone can subscribe to your service in any country as long as you hold the license. So they all localize. And they localize in big volume. So a new cohort of tools has appeared, specifically to make subtitling and dubbing faster. In subtitling, the video goes through a speech recognition engine, and then you edit it a little bit, similar to editing machine translation output. So this makes captioning much faster. Maybe you don't spend 5 hours per hour, 6 hours per hour. You spend 2 hours per hour. That's much faster. So you can adopt one of these software tools to maybe build a subtitling unit in Ukraine. In dubbing, there's home studio, so people cannot travel to studios so much, and it's really inconvenient to have brick and mortar studios these days, or it's inconvenient to have brick and mortar studios for dubbing when you're localizing in 20 languages. So the approach where dubbing actors work from their homes is really taken root this year. So if you have a nice voice, like Irina, then you can probably work a little bit as a dubbing actress or an actor, and this type of service is going to grow even further. What are the other uses for transcription? When you pass the video or an audio through an engine for speech recognition, there are many more things that you can do. You can make automated note-taking called stenografia in Russian, and provide automated notes with a little bit of post-editing for each meeting. So maybe there is a corporation which wants to keep notes, and you can sell this as a service, or maybe an international organization, a parliament, I don't know, United Nations, whatever. Then there is a use case that Sabine has described for call center or for call compliance. Investigators, they look at the calls, so they can scan the calls and the conversations automatically using transcription, which is post-edited. And then they can use keyword detection to hear when there's something aloof, when there's something's wrong, when someone's discussing a fraud. Videos can have automated captions. It is available on YouTube in a few languages, I'm sure not in Ukrainian. So you can provide an online meeting with captions. And finally, there's news monitoring. And I'll speak about news monitoring in a minute. But first, writing assistance. So writing, copy. Digital marketing needs a message, needs a lot of copy. There's a new cohort of tools, not really new, but growing, and you can use them to make copy better. First, you can manage terminology so that everyone in a company, let's say you have a big factory with 3,000 office workers as a client, all of them write every day, emails, whatever. You've seen a Ukrainian company called Grammarly, which is now valued maybe as a unicorn in the United States. So they make this add-on to your browser, which spots mistakes and allows you to correct what's going on in your text. Think of Grammarly, but for enterprises. So there are tools right now which scan the text and provide suggestions. Use company terminology. We don't say hand tachometer, we say manual tachometer. We don't say bolt, we say, I don't know, what's the other name for a bolt. Then you can work with the marketer and say, dear marketer, if you're using wrong terminology, you're not really found on Google. If you go with the old standards, SNILS or whatever, then your technical documentation is not visible. Let me help you make your website and your technical documentation more discoverable by adapting your terminology to what people are searching for. So you can make a search frequency analysis on the terms and put them in a tool like this. So everyone in the company writing emails, web pages, commercial offers, manuals, technical documentation, everyone uses the same terminology, which is the most frequent on Google. How cool is that? This could be sold at a very high premium. And it's basically glossary creation. LQA, it's an old topic. I think Leonid can cover it in much more detail than I can. He has a very specialized software portal built for that kind of thing. I just want to point out that tools for LQA are taken root. On to the left, you can see a panel from BureauWorks. They analyze edit distance, the Levenstein edit distance, and this is much faster than making markup for mistakes. Right, and I can visualize it quickly in the panel. You don't have to do anything, just edit your text. So maybe very useful for machine translation or for a scenario when you don't have enough time for LQA, but you still want to know the quality per language per vendor. To the right, you can see Kirill Solovyov's content quo, a screenshot. So another service you can do. I think Leonid makes quite a lot of money on LQA using a similar piece of software that his company has developed. Finally, this is the last thing, analytics. So analytics is when you scan news, let's say a big data source, for natural language, for special keywords, you try to understand what's going on. To the left, you see a screenshot of a pre-brand platform developed on with European money and now maintained by a Portuguese organization. What they do for BBC, the BBC and for Deutsche Welle, they scan all the news in the world from millions of sources. They identify tags and keywords using natural language processing and named entity recognition engines. They group the news, they machine translate those news into one language. So let's say let's say Angela Merkel goes to China and makes a statement about nuclear power stations. So this news is it's picked up by the Financial Times, by Le Monde, Figaro, the Italian newspapers, the Chinese newspapers, Al Jazeera, the Russian media, and so on and so on and so on. This platform takes all the news, makes it in one language, extracts the entities. So when you click on Angela Merkel and nuclear, then you can see what everyone in the world is saying about this. And the sentiment, is it positive, is it negative? What's the difference? What's the summary? There's a lot of natural language processing involved. And in the end, the journalist that works in Deutsche Welle or the BBC can quickly have the picture in seconds about every piece of news or about every topic. They are categorized and grouped together. This is useful for the BBC and for the Deutsche Welle. But analytics like this have applications in many spheres of life. So there are software pieces like this that monitor infectious disease spread based on the comments in social media. Oh, I don't feel well, I have a runny nose, and so on, in many languages. Patents, what people are registering for. Are they registering for AI? Are they registering for speech? Are they registering for, I don't know, life sciences, and so on? Legislation, what if there's new legislation coming up in Malaysia which concerns cloud-based businesses? There are software pieces that track this and make it happen. In translation and machine translation and language services and training these engines is a part of this process. So this database creation, data set creation and curation is a service that all of these analytics companies buy. You can build data set curation company in Ukraine. Finally, what? Clinical studies, litigation outcome. Let's say you have an engine which can predict what kind of outcome would be in a certain trial using this judge, this attorney, using this kind of case. You input the parameters automatically and it tracks all the cases, and then it can make a prediction who will win in a trial. So you can really save or win a lot of money using this kind of thing. And the easiest application is trade bots. One company, Acern.com, for example, provides data via the API using lots of natural language processing models. They scan the news about corporations, the annual reports, the significant information release, and they assign weights to this news. And when they know that this public company has a negative news coming up instantly around the world, in seconds, they'll know that the stock will go down. Most probably, the stock will go down. So people can use this information to build a trade bot, which shorts the stock, or maybe if there's positive news, then it buys more stock of that company. And all can happen within milliseconds before any human trader can even realize. So language is a part of this process, is a part of this technology. And what you can do is you can become a product owner or a company building this kind of product or putting this product into this use case. And this way you can go from the profession of a translator or a translation company into the new world, into the world of a digital company where you have something to show. Maybe your process with a project manager and a human linguist will stay the same. Maybe you'll still be doing translations, just you'll call it differently. But this is a way you can really transform your company, right? Everyone's talking about digital transformation. What does it really mean for you? I hope I've given you enough examples and enough food for thought over which you can eat your lunch And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kostya, and hi. So, as I know, we have online questions from.
Hi, Kostya, it's Alona here. Thank you so much for such an informative and detailed overview. First of all, I'm passing a comment from Chris Durban, Paris, France. She says...
I know Chris.
Okay.
Bonjour.
She says, CSA data on pain felt by small businesses reflects, above all, the fact that CSA respondents are largely bulk market players, bottom feeders. So it's for you.
There's two sets of data. Let me go back to this. So to the left, you can see EU-ATC survey, which I prepared together with Rudy from EU-ATC. So this is data from the European Association 200 Answers. It's also the data that Sabine has been using for the marketing channel performance. So this is like 200 answers. This is about 115 answers, but bigger companies. So what's the question?
It's just a comment. And
okay.
3 questions from Chris. So the first one, how would you define the premium or bespoke market? The second one, do you know any premium bespoke players in Ukraine, and can you name them? And the third one, what prices are applied in this segment in Ukraine? Thank you.
Chris, I remember our conversation in Prague. I think we discussed that you only work in the premium sector. Look, the premium is very small. The biggest segment is middle up in every country. Someone who charges a little bit more than the market average. There the biggest volume sits. I've done this calculation a few times, and this is the best segment to be in. A little bit more than the other market, and you can explain why your prices are slightly higher and your client can still go for it. The premium is tiny in every country. The boutique, which charge, I don't know, in Russia they would charge $30 per page, maybe, against the average of 10. In Ukraine, I don't know any boutique providers that have at least 500,000 or something like this. Maybe they exist, but have no volume.
Thank you, Kostya.
Individual translators, maybe. Go ahead, Tanya.
So, do we have questions in the audience? No questions? So, everyone is so stressed with your information, Kostya, you know, just thinking whether we have to stay here or just move to some other conference.
No, our industry will survive and it will thrive for the next 20 years. There's no doubt. But what we will do, of course, will evolve. So you can stay in the industry. And if you feel comfortable, this is the good place to be, right? Our industry is the most comfortable industry in the world. Only nice people, only well-educated, multilingual, polyglots. However, if you want something more ambitious, you probably need to go IT and a product owner. By the way, I'm hiring.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you again, Kostya. We close this.